So Fran can go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Fran Baxter, and I'm the chairperson of the Northborough Zoning Board of Appeals. Today is Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. And this open meeting of the Northborough Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted remotely, consistent with the Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, the town of Northborough has been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's orders suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of the Zoning Board of Appeals are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the Zoning Board of Appeals to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comments. Okay, and want to say that all voting members of the board are present, as well as alternate Jeff Leland. So the first order of business after the hour of 6 o'clock is to consider the petition of Karina Silva de Almeida for a special permit with site plan approval, special permit groundwater protection overlay district to operate a pet grooming business on the property located at 369 West Main Street, map 81 and parcel 19 in the Business West zoning district and groundwater protection overlay district 2. And if Ms. Silva de Almeida is present, she can be brought over. There she is.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you could just state your name and address, and then just give a brief, give us a what you're looking to do, and go from there.
Sure. My name is Karina Almeida. The address is 369 West Main Street, and I'm planning to open a grooming business. It's gonna work only between Monday through Saturday, 9 to around 4 p.m., 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So what I'm gonna do basically is just do the dog's haircut and bath and this, and I'm asking for the permit for open the business.
And can you tell us, I know it's a strip mall that you're locating. Is it in the front side or the back side of the building?
The front side.
Okay. Okay. And how many dogs at one time do you think you would have on the premises?
I think around like 5 to 10 dogs.
At one time?
One time, no, a day.
Oh.
One time it's gonna be around 1 or 2 because it's gonna be just me and my partner.
Okay.
And then we're gonna do one each at the time.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Board members, questions for the applicant? Paul?
Can you just provide us some context? So I know Yamasakura is a restaurant that's in the same strip mall. What and Monty's Pizza is there. If you're looking at the front of the strip mall, where exactly is your store located? Like which?
It's the store, the end of the building, the last one. It's next to the Monty Pizza.
So all the way to the left.
Yes.
So it's the corner one all the way on the left side. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark? Oh, I thought you had
Nothing
your hand up. Okay. All right. Other board members, questions, concerns? Go ahead, Mark.
Okay. Then, when the hair is groomed off the dog, you're doing this where? I mean, I go to the barber, it falls on the floor. Is it the same thing with dogs? I know nothing about grooming dogs. How's the waste from this collected?
Oh, it's like a normal waste. So we're gonna ask for the dumpster to put behind the store, and
But I
then
mean,
we're gonna dump.
Is the hair just trimmed onto the floor and then
Oh, on
brushed
the
up?
floor, I'm gonna vacuum
Okay,
all the hair.
okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Brad.
just reading through the application, there was a mention of a kennel. Are you planning on keeping dogs overnight at
No.
all?
No, at all. No, it's not a kennel. It's just a dog grooming,
Okay, thank you.
just business hours.
And Ms. Almeida, you did go before the groundwater. You understand the concerns that they had about the chemicals and the parking, and you agree to all of those?
I did, sure.
Okay, okay, okay. Have you done this before somewhere else?
Yes, I worked with the dog grooming for like 5 years, and now I'm planning to open my business with my partner Elise. She's not here right now, but we are planning to open our own business. But I'm doing this for like 5 years already.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, Paul.
And so obviously when you're grooming these dogs, everything is done in your store. There's no like, you're not bringing the dogs for walks along, the side. Dogs
No.
go in, you groom them, dogs leave, and that's it. That's okay.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Mark?
For the dog bath, is this a open area with a drain? I mean, are you essentially soaping them up and then spraying them off, or how does that operation work itself?
Perguntando da banheira, se vai
Yes.
dar banho.
Yeah, I have a bathtub.
Okay. Are you,
And
I mean, are you filling it up? Do they get submerged, or are they just essentially showered off? I mean, how much water is being generated? And how?
Oh, it's not too much water. So I'm just open up the water and take the dog wet, put the shampoo and rinse. It's not too much water. It's not.
Okay, all right.
Kathy or Fred? Kathy?
Yeah, actually, I do have a couple of questions. In general, do dog groomers need anything from the Board of Health here in Northborough? And also, is it a state certification or anything that you need from the state?
No.
Okay.
Groomers doesn't need any license or certificate, nothing. I do have it, but we don't need it. I just have because I did all my classes and everything. So that's why I have it, but we don't need it here in Massachusetts.
Okay. And then just one more question, Fran, and then I know you probably want Fred to just review for the people at home, so to speak, to review the groundwater letter.
Mhm.
But what if, following up on Paul's question, what if a dog, does need to go to the bathroom? Do you bring it outside, or do they?
So I have like one room over there, so the dogs can do it over there. So it's gonna be all disinfected and clean after that, because I will not go outside with the dogs. But the dog's gonna stay there for just 1 or 2 hours. It's fast. It's not like whole
Oh, so
day.
they come in for the appointment, you do it, and then the person picks them, their owner picks them up.
Exactly. It's just
Okay.
they're gonna stay there for just like 2 hours.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Dick?
I have a question. Does the Board of Health have any weigh in this, where there's 4 restaurants or eating facilities in this building? You know, Kathy?
No, that's the part of the reason why I asked the question. I didn't know. In the past, I don't think that the Board of Health has been involved with issuing any kind of, license or permit for the other dog groomers in town. But I just had wanted to verify that. So I don't know that specifically Dick. I'm just going by memory on the other dog groomers in town.
But they aren't located in where restaurants are either. Are they?
I, not that I'm aware of, but
Isn't there one located a couple doors down from Pickle House?
is she in the,
Yeah.
in the main
There's-
building or is she in a separate building?
No, she's,
She's
I
in
mean,
the same building. It's a different,
Yeah.
I think it's a
That-
different portion of the same building.
Okay,
And we have
I-
hair salons we have hair salons in the same plazas as restaurants.
Yeah.
And they use more harsher chemicals and product than a dog groomer does. And I'm sorry, Paul, you got cut off.
I was just gonna confirm, Fred, that I think it's the VCA dog grooming business is in the same strip mall as Pickle House. Can confirm.
No.
The VCA is in a separate building next to the Pickle House building. But in that building, there was the hydrotherapist that was going in there, the dog with the water therapy for the dogs or something. And that was in that same building. That's the one. I
Yeah,
was
it's a-
talking to. I
Yeah,
forget
but
the
there's
name.
like a physical therapy portion, and then next to it's the dog groomer. I've taken my dog there. That's how I know.
Gentle Elephant used to be. Paul,
So just this building, is this on septic or is this on town water?
Fred, do you know if it's septic or town water,
I
town sewer?
don't know about the town water, but I do believe it is on a septic system.
Okay.
I believe
There's
it
no
is on
town
town
sewer
water.
in front of that building.
I'm sorry, Dick?
I believe it is on town water and there's no private septic.
All right, so Fred, in the groundwater letter, I just curious. I mean, I'm not opposed to having the applicant erect 3 dedicated parking signs for this business, but how does that relate to groundwater? Or is that just like an added suggestion?
Well, I'm glad you asked. During the conversation that Karina had with the groundwater committee, we asked about the dog pickup drop-off operation and would there be any pet waste that had to be controlled outside the building?
Mhm.
And she indicated that when the dogs are there by appointment and they're picked up by their owners, and when the owner comes to pick them up, she gives them a bag. And so that if the dog has to go when they leave the building, it can be picked up immediately. Then there was some discussion about what if the owners don't pick it up, and did they have any dedicated parking spaces, because it's there are several businesses there and there's adequate parking for the whole plaza, but their owners are dropping off and waiting for pickup out in the parking lot. And so the conversation kind of went towards, why don't we have some dedicated place for the people waiting to pick up their dogs to go? That way, if the dogs went outside and the owners didn't pick it up, she would have a small area to police and patrol and to pick up, because she did agree to pick it up on a daily basis if there was any, and then dispose of it in the dumpster out back that's emptied, I think, on a weekly basis. So that's where the conversation came. She indicated that her lease included, I believe, 3 parking spaces. So we wanted a sign saying which 3 were there for her customers, and similar to what Monty has. If you've been to Monty's recently, he has some signs there right in front that say for Monty's only. Similar kind of thing was what we were looking at.
Follow-up questions by board members or staff? Okay, all right, well, we can come back. This is a public hearing, so.
I have
we're
a
not-
few more comments if
oh,
you'd
I'm
like to
sorry.
go over the rest of the letter from the
Oh,
groundwater
absolutely.
committee. There was
I
some confusion, I guess, in the beginning when Karina first applied. We had asked for a list of chemicals and quantities of things she might use, and she gave me some, and there were some of the MSDS sheets that came with those chemicals that had stuff that would require containment. It would still been permitted, but it would have required containment. After we talked a little bit about the containment and how that stuff might interact with the septic system, she explained that she had changed paths that she was going to go down, and all the chemicals that she would be using on the dogs for shampoo products would be natural and organic, and supplied a list of MSDS sheets for those. There was a total of about 8 gallons worth of material between shampoos and conditioners and whatever else you put on dogs. At my house, it's just a shampoo. And those all were natural. There were no hazards. There were no reason that it couldn't go into the septic system. There's no necessity for a tight tank or anything, and they're fine. But because it's in a groundwater area, the section of the bylaw that she's applying under calls for annual certification to the Board of Health and Building Department that that's still the case. So that's kind of a way for us to keep up on. So I have the list of chemicals. I can get it to Kathy, the list of materials that she submitted so that it can be itemized. I didn't put it in the memo, but it could be itemized in the decision. And then anything that's inside the building that's not on the list would have to have an MSDS sheet provided to make sure that it's still natural and organic and doesn't contain any hazards, because anything that was not on the list and is not natural and organic would require an amendment to the special permit, and a condition would be containment of those products within the building. So as long as the products are as stated in the application or in the most recent submittal to me, everything is fine, but the annual certification is necessary to keep that in compliance without having to come back before your board and the Groundwater Advisory Committee.
Can I ask you something, Fred?
Sure, if it's okay with Fran.
It's fine. Go ahead, Ms. Almeida.
I just want to know if in the future I want to try another kind of chemical, another kind of shampoo. Should I send to you the MSDS before I buy it, or is to you, or what I?
Well, I think that's probably a good idea. I can show you what I look for on the MSDS sheet. I'm looking for any kind of hazard that says it's, you know, if it were spill or get on your clothes or on your body, it's harmful in any way. If it's a concern for drinking water supply, then that would be cause for concern, and that would not be in conformance with the special permit that this board or that the Groundwater Committee recommended to give you. If it's a natural and organic material similar to the ones that you submitted to me, you should be fine, but we can talk about it whenever you want to do a change or expansion. You just can't do it every day, that's all.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, I do want to just acknowledge that our newest member, alternate, Susie Sezlika, has
Sorry,
joined
I
us.
had an emergency with one of my kids.
Oh, no problem at all.
And my husband's at soccer, so I had to make sure that no one was injured.
Okay, so just to let you know that we are just in the middle of the one hearing that we have about the dog grooming business. And I've been practicing your last name, so I was hoping that you would go.
It's Seslicka.
Seslicka. Oh, thanks a lot, Paul.
I know
I was basing it off of Scott
sorry.
Rogers.
Sorry.
Everyone has their own way of saying it.
Okay.
And my maiden name is Familo, which is also a doozy. So
Okay. Well, welcome just the same.
thank you.
Okay. So any other?
And I just wanted to point out before you went to the public, we also received, or the board also received a letter from the fire chief. And where he stated that he doesn't have any concerns, with the application as presented.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Fran, can I ask a couple of questions? I did have a
Sure.
couple of questions.
absolutely.
Regarding, I think I came in on the end of it about the products that were going to be used and on the dogs and everything according to the groundwater recommendations. I was wondering who in town checks up on that? who would check up on that as the business goes on and is making sure that it's compliant with the groundwater board recommendations?
Fred, did you want to answer that?
I'll take a stab at it. The condition, the recommendation of the committee was that in accordance with the bylaw, the applicant would certify on an annual basis that she's in conformance with the conditions of approval. We talked about just a few minutes, I'm not sure if you were here or not yet, but the applicant, Ms. Delamita, indicated that if she wanted to make a change, she would talk to me. I will review the MSDS sheets to make sure that it's in compliance, but in terms of a weekly, monthly, quarterly checkup, there isn't anything, but the bylaw does require annual certification from the applicant to the building department and the Board of Health. So that's where that checks and balances is.
Okay, and I had a couple other questions. So when I had a dog and I would bring it to be groomed and everything, there was always like an area outside for a dog to take care of its business. And I was just wondering, I don't think there is one in this area. Like, how is that going to be handled because there's like restaurants also in this building, 4, I think.
Ms. Almeida, if you, let Ms. Almeida answer it again. That'd be fine.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sorry if it was
It's
asked
okay.
before.
That's no worries. Go ahead.
No, I'm gonna have one spot there. So the dog's gonna be inside and it's just like 1 or 2 hours. So if they need it, and then I also have a special park, just 3 spots in front of my business. If they're gonna be outside, and I'm gonna have like a waste bags. So, and I was gonna do walkthrough every, like, if the dog, the owner left, I go outside to check if it's everything okay, nice and clean. Should not happen because the restaurant's there.
Thank you.
Let me see. And what were the hours of operation going to be and how many days a week?
It's gonna be Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to around 5 p.m., 4 to 5 p.m.
And how many dogs at a time in the building?
At the time, 2 dogs, one for me and one for the other groomer.
Okay, and then none like waiting in the wings. There'll always only be 2 dogs there.
Yeah, because we're gonna do like a schedule. I'm gonna make the appointment at 9 o'clock, and then the other one's gonna be 11. You know, so I can have 1 dog at the time.
Okay. Okay, I think that was all of my questions for the applicant.
Thank you. And actually that led me to just a follow-up question. When you say 9 to 5, is the last appointment at 5 or you're closing up shop at 5?
Oh, no, my last appointment is gonna be around 3 o'clock.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so, I mean, we can always circle back. All right, so Ms. Almeida, this is a public hearing, so at this time I will ask people in the audience if they have questions. I need you to, I would ask you to raise your hand. Once you are acknowledged, one second, once you're acknowledged, if you can state your name and address for the record. Okay, well, seeing no one sees anyone in the audience either, right? I see 2 attendees, no hands up. Any further questions or concerns by the board? For the person that just popped in? Okay, hearing none, do I hear a motion to close the hearing?
I move that we close the hearing.
Second,
Okay, that was Mark making the motion and Dick seconding on a roll call. Mark,
Aye.
Dick,
aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
and Fran, aye. Okay, Ms. Almeida, we will now discuss the application and make a decision. You're welcome to stay or contact Kathy in the morning, whichever you prefer.
Okay, I can stay.
Okay. All right, so Jim, can you just move her off to the side?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Yes.
The person who was asking questions, they had returned, but they had just left again. I know you had closed the public hearing section, but I just wanted to let you know, but they seem to be gone now.
Okay, and Fred's hand is raised, but I'm going to lower it unless he wanted to say
That
something.
was a mistake.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, a little gun shy. All right, I did see a person in there, but I don't see her now, so. Okay, so the hearing is closed. It is the only hearing on our agenda, so we can move right to the discussion. Any concerns, questions?
I think the applicant has experience in dog grooming, so she knows what she's getting into. She knows the problems of it. I'm not a dog owner, so I don't know the problems of grooming a dog. But she seems to have control of the operation and would be a reasonable fit for this area.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I did see that Bob had written her a letter after it was he had granted it, and then he explained to her the reasons why she had to come before us, which I think are pretty straightforward. It's because it's an allowed use, but because of the groundwater and the type of use, it needs the special permit. So, and everybody saw that letter that he wrote to them. I never even knew there was a bridal shop there. That's what it says it used to be. Anyway.
And an old dance school was there too, right, Dick?
Oh,
No, across the
No.
street, or down the street.
down.
No, but Don's used to be in that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
by
used to be in
Monty's.
that building, yeah. That
Oh,
unit,
right.
yeah.
That same unit. That's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, there you go. All right. All right. So what type of, is a special permit? What type of conditions do you want to ensure? I mean, if you're going towards approval or do not, I mean, give me a sense of which direction you guys are going in.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I don't have the spiral bound copy of the zoning code yet, and I was trying to look online, and sometimes it's like funky. I was just wondering where in the use table where the grooming was. I saw kennels, but I didn't see anything for grooming. I don't know if Bob's on here. Is Bob on here?
No,
No,
Bob's
not.
on vacation this week, but I'll get you the section number in just a second, Susie.
Sure.
But it's under, I believe it's under personal service.
That's what his letter says. It's not a kennel. Right.
No, but I think it, yeah, on, it's under section 7-05-020, 5B. For anyone that has their zoning, it's on page 35. So it's under, so 705-020G, which are the business uses. And then,
So, and under, is it personal service establishments?
yes, yep, and then on the bottom.
Is that for humans though?
No, that's where we've done any kind of, where it talks about, you know, customers coming and going, which services directly to the consumer.
So the dog is the consumer here? I'm just
I don't know if I
verifying.
I would think it's still the
Yeah, I would think the
owner
owner,
of the dog.
human
is
is
take-
this, is the customer.
Right. The owner is taking advantage of the service that is being provided by the dog groomer.
So the personal service establishment would, so that covers hair salons and dog grooming then? Right? Is
Yeah.
that what we're saying?
Right.
Yeah, I believe that's where Bob, he talks about a kennel,
Mhm.
but we've.
And it's not a
established-
kennel because they're only there for like an hour or two.
Well,
Yeah,
because
so-
our definition of a
Use of
kennel
a kennel.
specifically does not include a grooming facilitator.
Right, so originally, if you, if you follow his April 12th letter,
Yeah.
Originally, you know, Bob talks about a kennel, and then in the, let's see, the zoning, there's a couple zoning determinations, so let me just find.
Mhm.
So, because I think the baseline is our definition of a kennel includes someone who just wants to do pet grooming, which it sounds like this is what the applicant's looking for. But kennel in Business West needs to go in front of the Board of Appeals, regardless of what part of the definition of a kennel it includes.
But it's actually.
Yeah, he actually
specifically
says,
Our definition
excluding,
of
like
kennel-
right,
on this page, it was like, sorry, my lighting. It says specifically does not meet kennel definition.
right. So
That's
it's a
why I was
personal service.
confused. So it's under the hair salon.
Well,
slash-
personal service could possibly mean the hydro, it's a personal service. It could be masseuse. It could, I mean, I think it's not retail.
But not just for humans. Right? That's what
Right,
we're saying. I'm just like looking at the definition because, like, you know, it had seemed to me when I was looking at everything that it wasn't okay. And then looking at the building and there's 4 restaurants there. I think it's great. And I think she's very experienced. My aunt and uncle had a dog grooming place. My aunt sold it last year because she moved across the country for my whole life. I think it's a great service. But I just didn't know if this was the right place for it and if we're stretching definitions to get it in there. I mean, some of the places in this strip are like very well-known places. You know, people come from all over to go there, so.
Well, dog grooming has always been an allowed use in the business zones, and this is one of the business zones. And again, if I recall correctly from my conversations with Bob, it's not a kennel, but it's a personal service.
And just for those.
And
So even if it's always been allowed, but we're still looking at this master plan as the rules, that's just a thing. You know what I mean? Like, I know we're going to be undergoing change and we're doing a new master plan and like, what are the rules? Because like, I'm not trying to like argue or push against. I'm just trying to understand it being my first meeting and the reasoning, because I'm coming in and I see the rules and the zoning that I went through and I just didn't know how it was fitting.
Okay, so.
And I can't even vote, but I'm like
Right,
the
that's
alternate
okay.
to the alternate, I like to call myself.
All right, so the services under personal service establishment is an establishment whose primary business relies on customers coming and going on a regular basis, providing a service directly to the consumer, such as barber, hairdresser, manicurist, caterer. I mean, all these and similar uses, but not including professional or business offices or medical offices. So every one of those is not a restaurant. I mean, I guess, I mean, I'm not.
I know, but I
either,
just
so.
read it as like for a human, like when it's
then-
just like a different, I don't know, when you're like servicing a animal. It's, you know what I mean? It's like it's an animal establishment in a building where there are 4 very, and there's like outdoor seating right there too. Now,
Madam Chair,
Yeah, Jeff.
I think the issue is the personal service. The consumer is the dog owner. It's not the pet. And so since it's personal service for that, that's why it fits in, and that's why it's fit in the past. The consumer is the animal's owner.
right. So a personal service for me versus my dog, that's just, you know.
Well, I mean, if you stretch it to, if you brought one of your minor children someplace and they received a haircut, it's still a personal
But
service.
human versus
Yeah.
animal, you know, human. I don't know. I'm just picturing like I'm sitting outside having some food and like there's dogs coming and going, and then where are they going to where they're relieving themselves if they have to, and those were my concerns. And if we were stretching the definition, like I'm all for small businesses, but I want to take care of the businesses that we already have that are established and very successful as well.
Okay. Other members of the board?
I would think that if there's a problem with the dog shop had impact any other businesses, the other businesses are going to let her know quite quickly. And
But there, I mean, there's nothing that they can
Okay.
do then,
yes,
right?
there is.
Sure. Okay, so just 1 second. Were the abutters to the property notified of the application?
Yes, everybody within 300 feet.
Okay, did we hear from any of the restaurants in the strip mall that they had concerns?
No, my office hasn't heard from anybody.
Okay,
But they're not notified though. The owners of the owner of the property are notified, right? Not the tenants.
Whoever is listed on the abutters list, so whoever
Yeah.
owns the property. So it's up to them to share it with their tenants.
Paul, did you have a question or?
So that they might
Excuse
not,
me,
the
I'm sorry.
tenants might, oh,
I'm
sorry. Well,
sorry.
can we go?
Right, Paul had his hand up, so I wasn't
Oh, no,
sure
no,
whether he
sorry.
wanted to. Okay, that was the hand. Okay, sorry about
Nope,
that.
sorry.
All right, just trying to keep track of who's talking. Go ahead. What? Where'd Susie go? There she is.
I was just,
Oh, there you
so if the owner of the buildings didn't notify their tenants of this, that would be why, because we don't know if they did. So we don't know if they have any complaints. And then so if they do have complaints after the fact, what are they and what would the ramifications be?
Kathy?
If a property owner or a tenant has issues,
Mhm.
if there's a zoning violation, then they would notify the building inspector. And there's a form that they fill out and then he does an investigation. But if someone is just unhappy about a zoning decision or a planning board decision, there's an appeal process that they can follow. If they
Or,
want to appeal the
and-
decision.
And if at the time, if they take issue with it, they can call the police and say the dog is defecating too close to the restaurant or whatever the issue may or may not be.
So just complaining back and forth.
Paul?
Madam Chair, I guess what I would say is, the concern for me is only on the outside, right? Obviously there's restaurants there and, dog waste, even being a dog owner is a concern for sure. The fact that the majority of this business is done on a Monday to Saturday, 9 to 4 p.m., 1 or 2 dogs at a time where they're going from the car to the shop. I think that special permits allow us to put conditions on it to try to protect the other business owners. And that we should probably look to, if we were to try to approve this, put as many conditions that we feel are reasonable on this type of business.
I agree. I would suggest that the 3 parking spaces that are dedicated be as far to the left as possible, which means they're the N3, which would then keep them as far away as possible from the abutting tenant who has their parking.
Madam Chair,
Yes. Jeff?
just a question. If this were not a groundwater area, would there be any application for a special permit, or would be a complete allowed use?
Kathy?
Based on Bob's, Mr. Frederico zoning interpretation, it's because it's in the groundwater district.
So if it wasn't groundwater, this discussion, we wouldn't be having this at all.
Correct.
I believe
Correct.
that's correct.
Correct. It wouldn't be before you. It wouldn't
Thank
be before the zoning board of appeals.
Thank you.
All right. Well, hearing that, does anyone have any concerns about the groundwater and putting conditions on this to protect the groundwater? that have not already been listed on the Groundwater Advisory Council's letter of recommendation. Paul, can you think of any other conditions that are not on that, other than maybe adding that the 3 parking spaces be to the far left if possible? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I guess having parking spaces as close to the business as possible, whether or not we can put a condition that says that if by some chance there is dog waste outside, that is picked up within a reasonable amount of time. So at least if there's something in the case that people can go to, the fact that there is no boarding of the dogs overnight, that it can only operate between the hours that she gave us. I mean, Fred, I assume that this is a very large building that, having say 5 to whatever it was, 8 dogs a day is not going to impact the groundwater. I mean, I assume, have you guys done that sort of analysis in your?
There's
There's
no impact. The chemicals are all natural and organic, so the waste product of the shampoos is not a factor. So as long as she sticks to those items that she said, there's no impact. There's no potential impact. And as far as the pet waste goes, I guess it's no different than anybody coming from Kearney Park across the street to grab a sandwich and have their dog with them out in the parking lot. I think that if you want to limit the business somehow, you might want to put in there a commitment that she offered no more than 2 dogs in the business at any one time, and put that as a limit so that the business can expand to the point where it's uncontrolled and you don't have the pet waste control as much as you would like. So that might be something you could do. The hours of operation that she's offered are more than reasonable and probably don't affect the restaurants at dinner time, because she's done by 5. I'm not sure what else you could do. I don't see any real impact to the groundwater here. The reason the special permit is required so that she can't change the kind of chemicals that she uses without coming back. That was the main focus of the groundwater committee.
Kathy?
If I could, as far as the applicant did state that there would be 2 employees, and they would each be doing 1 dog at a time. And in order not to, prohibit a business from expanding or growing, which is always a good thing, that perhaps, the condition would be such that at the present time, it's limited to 2 employees, and that, if the business were to expand and hire additional people, which means additional dogs, they would need to come back to the Zoning Board of Appeals to consider, the decision to be revised.
That's a good suggestion. And I'm thinking could we also say that if you're waiting for an appointment, you and your dog must wait inside your vehicle?
In theory, to me, that makes sense, but it's all about enforcement. That would be on the applicant, which I don't think is unfair. I mean, she could, as she makes appointments, she could tell people that that the animals have to remain in the in the vehicle.
Okay. Stay with your animal and in your vehicle. Does that sound reasonable?
I heard her say she had an area where she was bringing the dogs. Was that included in the description, the part that I missed? Like, where is it going to be? We say it's in the back, like away from customers or customers of other establishments, or?
I think it's just inside, Susie. She has an area inside, kind of a, she didn't call it anything, but a small room that I guess they could do their business in.
Okay. But I think to your point, Susie, we can certainly say that she cannot allow that, she cannot take the dogs out for potty breaks. I mean, we'd have to
Yeah,
phrase it
Right.
differently, but.
Because I
that-
mean,
yeah.
I know a couple of the businesses do lunch, you know, like
Oh, sure.
one's more of a lunch and one's a takeout, more of like a takeout, come and go
Mhm.
during the day kind of thing. So,
Okay.
you know,
Right.
if it was like, I know back there, there's, you know, a lot more open space in the area in the back.
And just ask, I mean, it must have a back door at ground level, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, the
Okay.
application actually included a copy of a floor plan.
Yeah, I see that. That's
And there are a
what-
couple of rooms there, and Karina did indicate one of those rooms would be a place where the dogs could go if they were waiting for their owner to come and pick them up. But
Okay.
she didn't indicate in any of our conversations that the dogs would be taken outside for any reason
Okay.
other than by the owner to get to their car.
Okay, so
So
if
there's
that's
no
a
dog
reason,
walking or boarding of any kind.
okay, so that's another condition to mitigate the concerns that it may have a negative impact on the dining, the restaurants, right? No outside walking. The dog has to wait inside for the owner has to wait with the dog in their vehicle. And if they want to increase their business, they have to come before for an amendment or whatever to the special permit.
Madam Chair, can I
Jeff?
just ask a
Sure.
point of clarification in case someone decides to make this motion, but the limiting it to just 2 dogs in the location, I would think occasionally, having been a person who had to bring a dog to a groomer, if you're a half hour, an hour late and another appointment shows up, your pet is kept in a cage for that extra hour, half hour. And I don't think if you put the limitation, whoever makes a motion, not to walk the dog outside, I think then there's no problem with waste or danger to the wastewater if a couple dogs are left, you know, in terms of the transition period for an extra period of time.
Okay.
I can understand the limitation on extra workers, but I would think if you give her a little extra space on dogs being able to, you know, 2 or 3 extra while waiting to be picked up.
Sure. So no more
That's
than
my
2
thought.
dogs at a time being serviced, but
Yes.
having that holding room. Okay.
I think that's what Kathy was suggesting, was a number of employees that could do the dog washing, because perhaps she may want a clerical person who's not doing any more dog grooming, but helps to run the business more efficiently. That might happen in the future without really expanding the business.
And not to belabor this point, but and I don't have a dog, but anytime that I have walked someone else's dog, the second that you get out of the car, no matter where you are, whether you're going into your own house or, you know, you're going over to Kearney or, you know, Petco, or, I mean, it's just a dog's instinct is to relieve itself. So I don't know. I don't think that I just don't think that that's canine possible, humanly possible, to prevent the dog from, you know, leaving itself outside. And I think the applicant indicated, though, that she was going to have waste bags and that she was going, you know, to police the area to keep it free of waste. So when someone was talking about no walking of the dogs, I'm assuming we're meaning that the owners, that you don't want I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to, I'm trying to figure out how to do that as a condition and then have it enforceable.
Okay, so that was my follow-up to what Susie said, but it was different. So to control the dog from the owner to the shop would be that they stay in the car with the owner. And obviously if they're walking then into the building and the dog marks, they mark. I mean, there's
Right.
not control over that. But I thought she, to Susie's point, what she said, she was taking them to an area to relieve themselves. I thought it was outside the building. And I said, then it should be in a certain area. But you believe, and we should put as a condition that if she needs to allow the dogs to relieve themselves, it's inside her building, not walking them outside the building.
Yeah, okay.
That is how she explained it to us at the groundwater committee, that there was a separate room.
Okay.
If for some reason the dogs had to stay and wait at the business for the owner to arrive, there was a separate room and they could go in there and she would clean up after that.
Okay, all right, so then.
That was my
resolves that.
interpretation
Okay.
as
very good.
well. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. then.
And I don't know if this is possible, but what about something like rinsing off the parking spaces? Like, because on hot days, I have had a dog before. You know, I don't want to get too graphic, but like rinsing off the parking lot area because of, to Kathy's point, what may happen in the heat and everything else. I don't know. Just another thought. I don't know if it's something that we can say. I don't know how it would affect the groundwater if we're rinsing it off or if it's just sitting on the parking lot, but it'll smell is basically my concern.
Good, Paul.
I guess what I would say is that if this business becomes significantly detrimental to the other restaurants there is a landlord that owns the entire building. And I would assume that the other restaurants would voice their concerns to the landlord, who would then make the concerns known to the applicant or this business that needs to stop, right? So we can put conditions on that are reasonable, as if we were to approve this, that we can think are reasonable from what we allow us to put conditions on that are, legal and have the backing from a ZBA perspective, but not overstep sort of what we can or cannot enforce, because then we're just putting sort of Bob in the middle or the police in the middle on something that may or may not even be enforceable. So
Does somebody have a list in their head or on a piece of paper of conditions? Feel comfortable with the motion? Need further time to discuss? Okay, well, I can't make a motion, so I need somebody to give it a shot.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we grant the site plan approval in groundwater district number 2 for the use of a dog grooming operation at 369 West Main Street, subject to the conditions of at most 2 groomers on site. And I would put a limit. Do we want to limit it to a certain number of dogs as well? Or allow up to 3 dogs, just in case there's an overlap? Or no, okay, we'll leave off the dog limit. And that all dogs are to be kept in the car until they're able to enter into the building for their appointment. And that there is all waste is to be cleaned up immediately off the pavement if there is an accident with a dog being delivered in or taken out of the property.
And the Monday through Saturday, 9 to 5?
9 to 5, yep.
Yeah.
And then the groundwater advisory committee letter conditions
yes,
listed in that as well.
Sure.
And also the fact that there'll be an annual report to the groundwater as far as the chemicals used being biodegradable or biologically natural.
Natural and organic.
Thank you. Natural and organic.
And then I had one written down. I don't know if you want to put this in or not, but that the employees shall not walk the dogs outside.
Okay.
Correct, yes.
All right.
I mean, by agreement, is that in?
Yes. Well, I would agree.
Brad? Paul?
Yep, I agree.
Okay. Dick, yes, okay.
Do you want to mention the dedicated spaces in front?
Those.
Yeah, I did look on Google Maps. There are 3 spaces in front of that are not the Monty's Pizza. They are to the left of Monty's Pizza. They seem like the natural 3 spaces to give her, so that, yes, the 3 leftmost spaces on the property there at the building would be designated for this.
So
Kathy?
can I just follow up with that? The, what I didn't understand is the 3 dedicated, in the groundwater letter, it says the applicant shall erect 3 dedicated parking signs for this business.
Right.
I mean, there's quite a bit of parking spaces on that property. And if she's got 2 employees, then they've already got 2 spaces.
Oh, she doesn't have to
So
park there.
is it- were we thinking that those 3 spaces are for? What were those 3
My
spaces
thought is
for?
that these spaces are for arriving and departing customers and not for the employees at all.
Okay,
Much
Correct.
like Monty's Pizza, if you pull up, there are 3 signs outside of Monty's saying, for Monty's Pizza, pick up and for pickup.
Okay,
okay,
So
and
that
just to make,
it prohibits other users of the strip mall from
Okay.
using those spaces.
thank you.
That was the intention at the groundwater
Okay.
discussion as well.
Mhm.
So like for customers only then, it
Yeah.
would have to state.
they could park behind the building, unless there's not parking back there, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's more common courtesy too. As
Yeah.
an employee, you're not gonna take the front spot, I hope. That's just bad business practice. But who knows?
Okay, all right. Does everybody seem to feel like everything that was
Mhm.
discussed as a concern is in there?
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
Just before you vote, Fran, I don't know how actually to handle this, but there's questions from in the question and answer component of Zoom here. And I know the public hearing is closed, but
Well,
Have they arrived after?
they
or-
arrived after, it
Um,
indicated,
one came in at 6:40. The same person asked another question at 6:43. And then an anonymous attendee asked a question at 7:01. So definitely the 7:01 was past you closing.
So Kathy, the first, they had asked actually around 6:09, and I had instructed them 2 to 3 times to use the public comment period that would be coming up. And then during the public comment period, I had told Fran there was somebody who was coming in and out, but I believe they may have had connection issues on their end. But unfortunately, they were not around for the public comment period, but I did keep an eye out for them and did instruct them. I also said that they could send comments or concerns to you, if that's appropriate as well.
that would be during the public. So that's why I waited when I said I
Okay.
waited I mean, it wasn't minutes, but we waited to see whether or not there was anyone there.
Okay, all right. I just, now that Jim said that, I remember him saying that. I just see it on my screen, so I just wanted to make.
Right. And so we would not respond to an anonymous anyway, because it's a public hearing, you have to be on the record. And unfortunately, I don't know. I mean, I guess if we wanted, because it's technology, and if we were in person, the person would have been waving their hands, not trying to reconnect. If before we finish the process, do people want to hear from the one person who was present at the beginning and tried to speak through the Q&A and was told to wait for public hearing and then got dropped, just so that, Mark?
I would be in favor of it just because, yes, this is a new technology.
Yeah.
Okay.
It
all right.
it runs into problems. dogs.
Okay. All right. So Jim, I would ask if you would just let Miss Smith know. Well, obviously she can hear us. If you could bring her over so that she can speak to us and have her concerns heard before, because we have not yet voted, and have her concerns put on the record.
Absolutely.
Madam Chair,
Oh, Paul?
I don't know about the technical, would we table sort of Mark's motion for the time
Yes.
being, reopen the public hearing, listen to the comments, and then proceed as we normally would?
Okay.
Is that, or does it even matter if could we just take in public comment from now?
I would imagine the proper thing to do would be to, if we're allowed, if by agreement, we reopen the public hearing, allow anyone that's out there that was there during the original public hearing, but I don't think I can do that. Once we open the public hearing, we're opening it again. So why don't we do this? Why don't we just, I would entertain a motion to reopen the public hearing.
I'll second the motion.
No, I was asking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to reopen the public hearing.
Thank you, Paul. And
I'll
Mark
second the motion.
seconded. Okay, a roll call. Paul,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
and Fran, aye. Okay, so we will reopen the public hearing and hear from the people in the audience. If you would raise your hand, and when you're recognized, state your name and address for the record. Okay, where do I have? Okay, so I am bringing in Miss Smith. If you can say your full name and address, please. Oh, you're muted.
You're muted.
There you go.
I work with animals, not with this stuff.
Okay, so I'm sorry, if you could give your full name and address, please.
Sure, Barbara Smith, and my shop address is 367 West Main Street in Northborough. And I have a dog groomery there for 11 years now, and I have worked really hard. We have a fantastic reputation. We do our grooming by appointments, and I'm extremely worried that there's going to be severe confusion of clients, of my clients and my word of mouth clients going to her, because I use the marker of the Yamasakura in the steak loft. That's what I say when people are looking for me, that I'm in the plaza next to that. So often, I know what's going to happen is she's going to end up getting my clients, because I have a number of veterinarians that recommend us. We've worked years to get here. And I just can see it snowballing and turning into a problem. I did at one point try to get my business near a restaurant, and I was declined because of the restaurant in Northborough. And I respect that. And I was surprised that she actually was able to even get a meeting to have a groomery near restaurants. Dogs do shake after they're groomed, and their minute hair goes everywhere. So often when you take the dog out, they shake, and I can see the hair and the light just going everywhere. I'm happy she wants to open a grooming business. It's a good place to be as far as work, but it's the wrong place to be, because it's going to cause so much confusion. And my team and I have worked so hard for so many years to finally get where we are, where all the veterinarians are recommending us. Word of mouth is incredible. And I do have clients that are up at Yama calling me, and I just go out the door. I say, I'm right down here. So I can foresee a huge issue. And I have nothing against her wanting to open a grooming shop. It's just we have 3 to 4 groomeries within 3 miles. And I even get confused with some other groomeries. My staff is really upset, and it would be a real hardship. I've lost, because of COVID, over $200,000 a year because of the pet sitting. So I used to, due to COVID, we were doing great, but once that hit, I've had a hardship of over $200,000 from last year. So I just don't need to add that to my list. I am going into surgery in 2 days for cancer. So dealing with that and chemo and radiation and then the confusion. I just hope that you can see my point of view. And thank you so much for opening up. I've been here since quarter of. I just don't do this. I'd rather have the dog want to bite me. I'm more comfortable that way. So that's what I have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Smith. Okay, I do see another person with their hand up. It says Henry Shin. When you are allowed to talk, if you could state your full name and address, please.
Hi, Henry Shin, 1 Oak Meadow Drive in Northborough. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay. I'm a little more curious about like the groundwater impact. I know Fred said that with the approved list of chemicals, there should be no impact. I just want to know like how enforcement works. Yeah, I don't know if this is the correct venue for that. Just kind of curious. Since I live pretty close by and I know that there's the daycare with the Goddard School right across the street. Just want to, make sure that how I can be sure that there's no impact on the groundwater.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Shin. Fred, if you could just reiterate what the concerns were from the groundwater advisory and how it is going to be addressed. Please.
The groundwater committee was concerned about the chemicals and the products that the applicant submitted all contained MSDS sheets that proved there's no toxic or hazardous chemicals within the compounds of the products that she plans to use. And the groundwater committee recommended approval, provided there's an annual certification to the building department and the Board of Health as outlined in the bylaw, verifying that the chemicals haven't changed.
Thank you, Fred. Does
So-
that answer your question, Mr. Shin?
So certification, does that like involve like a inspection and or something like that, or is that I don't know.
All right, Fred.
It's a letter submitted to the building department and the Board of Health, and I believe the building inspector and the fire department does an annual inspection around for various permits on an annual basis. I think it's done in the very beginning of the year or towards the end of the calendar year. But there's some checkup that goes with that. The applicant did indicate she would run by me a review of the MSDS sheets with any products she plans to change to make sure that they're in conformance, and that may be something you want to add to the list of conditions as well. It's not in the groundwater letter, but it's certainly something that she seemed to be willing to do, and seems to be a reasonable request if you want. The other thing that comes to mind is, since you opened the public hearing back up, perhaps she should be invited back into the meeting.
Okay. All right, thank you, Fred. All right, Ms. Almeida, you are, since we did reopen the public hearing, if you had any final comments or that you wanted to share, you would be allowed to do that at this point as well. There you are. Oh, unmute. Unmute. There you go.
Oh, okay. No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So do I hear a motion now?
I move that we close the hearing.
Second?
Okay, motion by Mark, a second by Dick. Roll call vote. Mark,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
and Fran, aye. Okay, so the public hearing is closed. We heard from one resident, one business owner in the area. To Fred's point, I think that if you were still considering moving to approve the requirement of reporting any changes be included in that, as Fred stated, that would be important, but I don't know if anybody has any other new or other concerns.
No.
Okay.
I know.
All right, so
Nothing
do I hear a
additional here.
motion? Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy.
No, I was just gonna say, can I just reiterate,
Okay.
what I had taken down as what I believe are the 6 conditions.
Sure.
And then, okay. Not in any particular order, but issuing the special permit and a site plan approval. The first condition, limit that the dogs need to remain in the car with their owner. Second, no walking of the dogs by the business owner outside. Third, limit of 2 dog groomers on site. 4, all waste to be removed from the parking lot, parking area. Annual, the annual reports to be, as far as the products to be submitted to the town. And 6, dedicating 3 specific parking spaces in the front for the customers.
And everything that's in the groundwater.
Oh, and then
letter,
excuse me, yep, and then the other groundwater comments.
and the business hours of Monday through Saturday, 9 to 5.
Okay, Monday through Saturday, 9 to 5.
Yes.
Hmm.
And does anybody remember anything else?
I have nothing against adding to condition 5 that any change to the used chemicals be communicated in a timely manner rather than at the annual report.
And we did say if they wanted to, oh, well, I guess by limiting it to 2 dogs at a time being groomed, if she wanted to increase that and her employees, that would generate a special permit, or do we need to say that?
You want to modify the limit of 2 dog groomers on site?
Right.
That if that were to increase.
I guess I don't understand why that wouldn't automatically be triggered. The whole idea of we've limited it to 2 dog groomers. If she wants more, then she's going to have to come back with a special permit.
Any increase in what's currently laid out in this application in the conditions.
Okay.
Whether it's hours, parking, employees, dogs, etc.
Right.
Can I ask a quick question about the chemicals, just because I don't understand the process? Fred, will the groundwater advisory committee reach out to her for the list, or how does that work? Or is she just submitting, or does it go to Kathy, or?
It came to me.
Yeah.
One of the things that we require with the application for a project like this is that they submit a list of chemicals with quantities and MSDS sheets, so that we can see what she has, what the hazard might be, what might be required for containment, to make sure that there's a low risk of impact to the groundwater. She did supply a list of chemicals and then changed it to all organic and natural products. She verified that through MSDS sheets through me. So those are the items that she can have, and they have no impact to the groundwater. And as long as she stays with those, she's all set.
Yeah. And then what's going to happen in
if she wants
May of 2022? Because you said that she had, or is it only when she's if she's going to change products?
There's 2 things. One is the recommendation is that once a year she submit a certification that she's still using those same organic and natural chemicals, and that's verified through the building and Board of Health. The other condition that we just talked about was if she wanted to change anything and she had a question as to whether it was completely non-toxic or natural and organic, she could submit it to me for my review whenever she wanted to make that change, and that would trigger, if it wasn't all natural and organic, that would trigger the need for her to amend this special permit.
Okay. Just I was confusing the 2, and I didn't know what would happen in a year and who was triggering it, or.
So there's the annual certification,
yeah,
regardless of how long it goes. And then there's, if she doesn't ever change anything, she still has to do that annual certification. If she wants to change something, then she has to come and see me, and we review it and let you know if there's a change that requires an amendment to the permit.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Fred. Okay, so there was a motion by Mark, and I apologize, the second I thought was Brad, but I might be wrong.
Sure, I'll second it.
Okay, sorry.
Thanks.
All right, so there was a motion and a second. Without further discussion, hearing none, roll call vote. Mark,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
and Fran, aye. Okay, thank you all very much. Okay, moving on to old new business, we have the approval of the April 14th, 2021 minutes. If everyone got a copy of it, any edits or comments were sent back to Kathy and or amended.
Everything looked good to me.
Okay, is that a motion, Brad?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the April 14th, 2021 minutes.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you, Dick. Okay, that was a motion by Brad, seconded by Dick. Roll call vote. Brad,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
and Fran, aye. Okay,
Did-
so the only other thing, just briefly.
Actually,
oh,
Fran,
Kathy, yes.
If I can just ask you about the minutes, we also had, and I was trying to look quickly as we were doing this meeting, but I wasn't successful. Did we also send you out the April 27th minutes?
Yes, you did.
Yes.
Okay. So did anyone review the April 27th?
I looked them over. They seemed complete to me.
I second that.
That's a motion to accept the April
I would
27th.
accept the April 27th minutes.
That was made by
Second.
Mark and seconded by Brad. Okay, and so on a roll call vote, Mark,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And Fran abstains. I was not present.
Ah.
All right, so any other business that becomes before the board? Just real quickly, we had a request by a resident who is looking to have a preliminary discussion about a proposal for a piece of land, well, his home, the property in which he lives in. He has asked to come before us for a conversation as opposed to an actual variance, if that is what's needed. He sent a letter. It is not something that is commonly done. The zoning board is not the crafter of the zoning. So if there is issue with zoning, that's a planning board responsibility to amend or edit or change annually. We hear exceptions to the rules. So I don't know how people feel about giving him the opportunity to just have conversation definitely without any type of deliberation or expectation that it is an approval without going through the process. But I don't know how people feel about it. It's not something that we've done. The planning board has had people come in and have preliminary conversations, but it's not something that is typically done by a zoning board. Paul.
I guess I would say that being the fact that this is something that hasn't really been done by the ZBA and that we are, a quasi judicial board who makes decisions based on cases that are presented to us. And like you said, Fran, we really don't have any we are a land use sort of board, but we're not sort of the crafters of the zoning amendments, which we all know. I think some of the comments in the letter that he wrote or sent into Kathy, he wants someone to justify the size of square lots. He wants someone to explain the benefits of 100 feet of frontage versus 50 feet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think that we are going to be the board that's going to provide sort of what he is looking for. But then in the same breath, he's sending us what his proposed plans are. And I have no issue with sitting in front and looking at his case if it ever does come in front of our board, but I don't think it's appropriate for us to sort of have this sort of informal conversation that's somewhat geared to his own personal potential application, therefore pre-biasing our board before we actually even hear a case. Because if he wants to know why bylaws are on the books or wants justification for, why a 100 feet is the frontage for a certain section of town, that's not the zoning board of appeals, in my opinion. So, I think that there's public comment availability for the planning board, who probably has a better backing or a better idea for that. But I guess that's my general feeling on it. So I don't know.
That's well said. Jeff? Oh, you're muted. Oh,
Yep.
there you go.
I completely concur with Paul. For everything he said is accurate. What that person wants is to get some discussion, and it's really appropriate with the planning board if he makes a plan or a presentation and it's denied for whatever reason, and then we would be the ones that would look at it and then make a decision, special permit, variance, etc. But even Paul's comment about being pre-biased, I think it puts us in a bad position and may negatively impact that applicant. It's really the purview, and I think the place is the planning board,
Great.
in
Thank
my
you, Jeff.
opinion.
Susie?
I agree with
My comment was more about even like, how would it be handled? Like, would it be a public hearing because he's not an applicant? You know what I mean? So my thoughts on it when I was just reading over the letter, and I know it's my first meeting, but as a former attorney, just how would it be handled with the rules, and you know what I mean? Do we open it up for everybody and then as a public hearing because he's coming in for a conversation, and then who else is going to come in, and we can't say no to it because it's a public hearing. So that was just kind of, the technical side of it.
It would get messy. You're right. Dick?
I just want to say I agree with the three people before me that, I think it's inappropriate for him to come before the board without a plan, a specific plan and an application that we can discuss and make legitimate discussion about, rather than coming in to speculate about something that's not on paper. I don't think that's something we should be doing.
Okay. Fair enough. Brad or Mark, any comments?
No, I agree. I agree with the previous comments.
Okay. I do think that if there's questions about zoning bylaws, it's asking the chair of the planning board to hear, ask the questions, or actually ask our town planner. I think she's the professional, and or our town engineer, if some of the whys behind. I mean, they're probably bigger than all of us. I mean, I don't know why 100 feet, why not 110, why not 75? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, okay. All right. So Kathy, would you draft a response on behalf of the zoning board to the proposed applicant?
Yep, sure. I'll put together an email tomorrow to send to him.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. Anything
Well,
else
should we
from
adjourn?
town staff? No? Okay. I'm sorry, Dick?
Motion we adjourn?
Okay, that was a motion from Dick.
I'll second.
All right. Motion by Dick, second by Mark. Roll call. Dick,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
and Fran, aye. Okay, thank you all very much. Kathy, our next meeting is what, June 22nd?
June 22nd.
Great.
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll see everybody